You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Doesn't he remind you of Ed McMahon? I mean, you guys understand that reference.
He does. He really does.
You know, a lot of my younger audience, shall we say, Ed, who, what? Who's with Johnny Carson? Johnny, who, what? You know, so I know. It's wasted on the youth, yeah. But today it's more than just my opinion. We're going to hear from Mr. Johnson and Mr. Green and hear what they have to say about this Burleson in general, the upcoming election, of course. And on that topic, today is the last day for early voting. So if you hear this live, get out there. It's time to vote. It's a very serious election. And I think it's more than just, how a vote is going to come down on city council and all this other stuff. I think it's going to reflect the character of our community to some degree. Because to be frank, I think the way that the two campaigns have been run are very reflective of the people running them. And that's I'm sure we'll dive into that to some degree later. But I'm going to run through the sponsors real quick so we can maximize the time. So thank you to Daniel CrossFit Burleson, CrossFitBurleson.com. Check out the page for the training, the classes, the whole program, the membership fees, the whole 9 yards is behind Stone Soup Cafe on 317 Southwest Wilshire. Thank you, Shandy. Shandy will be on Thursday one more time because she's been doing a lot of conversations with the Burleson folks. Who was at the farmers market last weekend. So will be the farmers market this weekend, just talking to the people. And that's what we need from any representative. So Shandy will be here to talk about that. But if you're looking also buy a house, she's also a good one to call. So do that as well. That's why she's here, is to make money too. I also thank you to Otto. Everybody knows Otto at our place. If you want to get in there without having to wait, you're going to have to go either really early or really close to closing time. And, I walk in there expecting my table to be ready, and they're like, Allard, sit down, shut up. We'll get to you in a minute. He has this, I don't know her name, but has a hostess that's about 5'0" with long hair, really sweet. And she's like, you again, sit down, So, so I'm not really getting any special favors from Otto and that.
Those are great people.
Yeah, they really are. And what I like about them is that they've been there a while. And so I've gotten to know some of the names, and, there's not a lot of turnover in the staff. And that tells you a lot about any boss, is if you have consistent employees.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And so I'm going to sit sharing all this with all the folks that want it. There you go. Also, Chris Notaboom over at Wild Cigar and Culture at the Standard. It's a great smoke, a great drink. Have you been there, Mr. Green?
I haven't been there.
You need to go by there. It really is. It's a class joint. It's not like, you go out there and find a bunch of hoodlums. It's a lot of people there doing business, and it's really, really nice. So Wild Cigar and Culture over at the Standard. Also, everybody knows Tiffany, of course, Tiffany Nico with the local life. I was talking to her or texting with her yesterday. Oh, by the way, Sherry Scott says, good morning. Okay. Anyway.
Morning, Sherry.
Morning.
I was talking to her, texting with her yesterday. She said they should have the issue today or tomorrow in their mailboxes, and it goes to 30,000 of them in this area. So it's really great. And I saw your picture in the last one and all this other stuff. That's good publicity.
Dandy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Taylor, I'm going to go ahead and run through the other ones as well, so we just can maximize the time. So we got Southern Jim. And I'm sure after all the years Mrs. Green's been putting up with you being on the city council, you need to take her over there.
Definitely. She'd love that.
top floor right now of the Windmiller building, but it's going to be on the bottom floor by Memorial Day now. And I tell all of my guests, it's not going to be, she's got something going on for men that I think is great, because you go to a lot of these things that are going to, go to their ladies primarily, even though she has male customers, more than a few. But she's going to have like this little sitting area so you can watch the ball game with a beer or Dr. Pepper or something like that while the ladies go shopping. I think that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but Kayla's pretty interesting person. Gun enthusiast, horse raiser, all the above. Okay. Also, thank you to First Due Detailing Services. This is a new one for me. This is a young man named Caleb Patino at 817-776-0478, and he'll come out to your place and wash and detail your car. So you could do it at work or at your home or wherever. He has a portable pressure washer, and also he has all these other detailing equipment. So several of my friends in B&I have used him, and they say their car looks better than it's ever been, even when they bought it brand new. So it's a good thing. Also, we have Old Pro Roofing. This is a new one as well. John Williams is their roofing specialist at 817-734-2756. Roofers are the only people I know that root for bad weather. You know.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Also, Old Pro is a Burleson company, and well known, well respected. And so when we do have roofing needs because of a storm like that, as all these guys start swarming in, you want to go with somebody you know.
Definitely.
And definitely in town. So thank you, John at Old Pro. And Texas Farm Bureau, Melissa Harmon, 682-804-0534. She'll check out your insurance and see if she can save you some money. She did for me, and she'll tell you if she can't. But I've also had several guests over the last few months that since she's been a sponsor who are clients of Texas Farm. They say they really take care of their customers well. That's an unsolicited solicitation, so to speak. And also, this is also a new one, Service Team Professional Stop Restoration. What they'll do is if they have some bad weather, and it'll help you with water damage and other damage, but they also, I was thinking that was their main function. So no, most of their business actually comes from like water leaks in the home that were either undetected or undealt with, and it just caused all this damage, the floors and mold, and they are mold removal specialists. You don't just put that up there as a sideline of your business. You have to go through all this training and whatnot. She showed me, and to get certified to remove mold is a kind of an ordeal. So if you ever have that problem, call Lisa and Morris over at Stop Restoration. Oh, Jackie Jones says, Rick, thank you for your service to our city.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been a humbling experience for me, for sure. Yeah. And I've enjoyed it. I really have.
Well, you've been doing it, 17 years? Is that right?
17 years. I went from 2000 to 2004, and then I came back in 2010 until the present. So,
well, I'm sure you've seen Burleson change quite a bit in the last 20-something years.
Oh, yeah. A lot of good things have happened, for sure.
Well, we've talked about this a lot when I've lived here since 91, and if you wanted to do anything at all, he's telling you to get it closer. Okay. If you want to do anything at all, you had to go to Fort Worth, unless you just were wanting to get pizza or something like that. But now, just really don't have to leave town. And I was talking with Gabrina Daniels yesterday, and that honey tour business coming up around Memorial Day weekend, it's going to be huge.
Yes, it is.
That is a great event.
Yeah, well, it's not just a bike ride. They're going to have like carnival rides and vendors and all this other business, and it's just going to be a 3-day event practically. And it's not just going to be, like my dad did honey tour many years ago, and it was a bike ride, and they had, a little handshaking at the end, but that's what this is going to be like an event that she's putting on. So that's different because of all
That's
that.
awesome. I mean, we have people coming and staying in the hotels now for that event.
And Burleson hotels, not the ones in Fort Worth.
Exactly.
Well, Ronnie, you've been here since, what, mid-'80s? Is that right?
70.
Since 70. Okay. That's right.
1970.
Yeah, and you've seen the changes.
Seen a lot of changes.
What do you say to people that who've been around a long time that resent some of that? I mean, I say these great things, and they say, well, that ain't like the Burleson I grew up in. What do you tell people?
Well, if you want to go back to the beginning, then you just said it. My wife and I, when we came, said, Burleson's a great place, and if we ever get to a point where we don't have to leave to buy Christmas presents, we would have arrived, and we have arrived. We can get anything we want there. I know when we first came, right behind, the old high school. I always call it the old high school.
Well, so do I.
Yeah, and you had a section of houses back there, but you had a lot of pasture land behind that too, and it was all around town. And now you look around, and it's all gone. We have houses. Of course, when I came, Brad, I think there was, 15,000. Now we got 60,000. So there's been quite a change and quite a great change.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, when
everything except hard liquor, Stephen Carl Jansen says. Yeah, well, that's true there, but go to Wild Cigar, Stephen. They'll get you a nice drink.
I think the biggest thing that we've seen too is people don't. There's a lot of people that when we both came here, you worked in Fort Worth or Dallas or some other place. Now you can actually work here, live here, buy your groceries here. I mean, you can do it all here. So, and that's been one of our goals over time is to hopefully get it to where, it'd be just that, where you could live here and do everything that you need to do.
Yeah, and I've seen it. Like, how long you lived in Burleson?
Since 88.
88. Okay, so we're close. I started teaching here in 88, so I was making my drive in. I lived in Arlington at the time, and when my wife and I had just gotten married when I got my job, and we were looking for homes around Mansfield, Arlington, etc. I said, well, and then I got moved to the high school at the last minute, which is another story, but beginning of fall of 90, I said, well, and I was going to teach classes I wanted to teach. I said, okay, I want to live in this town that I teach in. And there really wasn't a lot to choose from, to be frank, because a lot of people, had their homes and there weren't a lot of building going on. And so we built outside the community. But now, we have opportunities for people that can live here and work here.
Well, I'll give you an example. When I came in 1970, I was a coach teacher. I coached 3 sports. I taught 5 subjects, not different subjects, but 3 of them were different. And I made $6,600 a year, and my wife had immediately go to work so we could make a living. Right. And we, at the time, we had to live out by Miller's Brewery. I know I've told that story. And then 7, 8 months later, we got the opportunity to get an apartment in Burleson. So to go to show you how teacher pay has improved, and I'm certainly not saying it's right now. It's not. But it has changed a great deal. And there were some periods of time in there, 10, 15 years. I was actually in education for 15 years. When I left in 85, I was elementary principal making $2,000 a month, and I had to do something else because we just weren't making it. We were barely making it.
$2,000 a month isn't tall cotton.
I could have probably picked cotton and made $2,000 a month.
Well, I came here in '88. I was making $17,900, and I was glad to get it because I was an emergency hire in the middle of October. But now the pay is it's competitive, and everybody says, well, I could go to Mansfield and make $100 more. Well, yeah, but there's certain aspects about Mansfield that Burleson doesn't have to deal with.
That's right.
You're right.
And a lot of the people, when I went to high school in 1990, for a decade, I was still one of the least tenured members of that staff because they would come and they would stay. Some of the great teachers of Burleson High School history, they stayed for well past, what they had to. And so I always thought that was an interesting thing about Burleson. And it seemed like, particularly my first principal at the high school, Terry Ford, he seemed to know everybody, and that's the way it is.
Ford did know everybody.
I'd say, this guy's giving me trouble, so I'll just call his daddy. I, go to church with him, I golf with him, or whatever they did. He happened to know him somehow, and it was just funny. Anyway, I think that's, one of the value of having tenure in the community like you have, because you've seen it, both of you all have seen it.
Well, Terry was, when I came in 1970, we were coaching together. He was the head basketball coach. And I'll never forget, it's a good story about Terry. The next year, Terry went in and told Jerry Richburg, the head coach, he said, I'm done with the coaching because I'm not getting to fish enough, so I'm going to go back to teaching mathematics.
That sounds like Terry, yeah.
Terry's one of my best friends. He's a great guy.
He really, and he was a good principal for a young teacher for me because a couple of times he had to kind of knock me right the head a little bit, get my attention, and so that's a good thing to have. And we were talking about this with some of the school board candidates, about some of the great staff members that we had that, for me, helped guide me. Do you remember Beverly Self?
Yes, I do.
I still credit her to this day for getting me on the right track. When I joined the junior high, 1988, I was getting swallowed alive by those 7th grade classes, and she just said, "Look, just send them on down. I'll give them a couple of whacks and bring them back, no problem." And I said, "Well, you might be getting a lot of business." She says, "My arm doesn't get tired." And after about 2 or 3 weeks of sending probably about 30 a week down there for a couple of licks, they finally got the message. But if I didn't have somebody like that, or David Dunn, who's still around, or Susan Shahay, they were really very helpful to a rookie like me.
I tell you, one of my very favorites was Natalie Scarberry. She was foreign language teacher, English teacher, and a great disciplinarian.
Who is this now? Yeah.
Natalie Scarborough.
Right. I was reading that. So, yeah, I remember Natalie.
And how about Jody Anderson,
Oh, yes.
another great one.
Another one.
She was
Nancy
wonderful.
Klein also.
Nancy Klein, one of my dearest friends. Okay, here's another story. I'm sitting there teaching geography one day, and we didn't have any textbooks. And so we were talking about the Aswan Dam. And I sent Kleiny was right next to me, and I sent a boy over there to ask Nancy to help me out. I couldn't find the Aswan on the map, so she came over and showed us where it was, and she has never let me live that down.
Man, bless her heart.
Yes.
Well, and I hope the listeners appreciate the fact that y'all have history in this community. And you care deeply about this community, not just as public servants, but as residents.
Yep.
And sometimes, you have to remind yourself that, particularly in election season, because it gets kind of, elbows are thrown.
Sure.
How do you assess your position in this campaign so far?
I like my spot because we worked pretty hard. We started. Ricky knows, he helped me. We started in November. And we had a good plan. We had strategy, and we followed that plan. And I think we have a very good chance. I feel better about it every day. Wife and kids are shaky, as you can imagine.
I think you have better than a chance.
Yeah, I like my shot. I like my shot.
It occurs to me, you've never lost an election because all those years on the school board, all those years in city council.
You're going to jinx me.
No. There's got to be something to it. And also because you have been part of the community in probably a way that I don't know anybody else in Burleson could say in the entirety of its history. I mean, who has been there at the schools and at the city, over the course of one's career. I can't think of anybody, and I'm not an expert in Burleson political history, maybe, but, did Mr. Black serve on the school board? I don't know.
He did. He was there for 10 years.
Okay, and all right, so maybe along his lines. But that's going to be your legacy, win or lose on Saturday. Okay, and I'm not jinxing you there, but you've run an honest campaign, and you can, whatever happens Saturday, you could say, I did it the right way, and you could look us in the eye and said, I respected you enough to tell you the truth.
That's exactly right.
So that's I would rather, this is just me talking, I would not want to win with the campaign of disingenuous subterfuge, which is what I'm seeing now. I'd rather just say, hey, it ain't worth it to me.
And Ronnie's always been that way as a, not as just professionally, but as a person. I mean, I can't think of a time that he doesn't tell the truth. I mean, and you see what you get with Ronnie,
Well, yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
I've seen that over the years. Seriously, because because like I said, I've been able to observe him in some of the school board meetings. It gets kind of intense. And some of the decisions are pretty hard, particularly when you knew the people involved pretty closely. These are former colleagues and friends of yours, and you knew how it was affecting them. And I will say that while you were compassionate about it, you always made the decision based what's best on the students in the school. And even if that was a hard decision to make, you made it. And you didn't shimmy or shake from it, and you didn't go try to backtrack it later. You didn't crawfish away from it saying, well, somebody else maybe do it, or I was lied to, or whatever rot that people use to excuse a bad decision. You never use that route. And, so I appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that. I tried to do that, but I've never had a problem with saying that I made a mistake. I think that's one big deal. And I'll just say it if I did. If we all make mistakes, and we all do things that we like to do over. You don't get to do over very often, unfortunately. But I've tried to do that, and a lot of people have asked me about the getting in the mud, and I said I've never done it before, not going to start now. That's not the way I operate. So.
Well, because sooner or later, you have to deal with these people, and you want to be able to look them in the eye and not feel like that, you misled them. And so, integrity matters. And particularly, of course, in city business, it matters because you're handling billions, well, not billions, but millions of dollars, and also the fate of a community and all this other aspect of the job. Integrity's got to be job one. And I think both of y'all have exemplified that. We do have processes in place, but still it takes people to make those processes work and not try to skirt them or whatever else.
I think we've always looked at it as a fiduciary duty, to the citizens. I mean, if you do the right things and you don't try to cover up things, and you're very, outgoing with people, and that you're there to help them, that makes a different, and that was one of the reasons I ran, and I love, what the 17 years that I've been there, because, I mean, most all of us up there the whole time were in there for that same reason. We're not there for a pat on the back. We're not there for money.
Not the $5 a meeting? Is that what they pay?
Yeah,
$5
a meeting.
Well, but most of you just donate it back, don't you? I mean, what are you going to do with $5? This ain't the days of Dairy Twin where $5 get you a full meal, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
And have money left.
Yeah. Oh, I remember $3.99 hamburger fries and Dr. Pepper.
That's right.
And that's a good deal. Yeah, but I'm just Mr. Green, you have a bunch of notes there. Do you want to tell us what you got?
Oh, I was just going to talk a little bit about Ronnie and kind of.
Okay.
And then, I mean, maybe some things that I don't like talking about people but I mean,
just say what's on your heart and mind. It's okay.
As far as Mr. Fletcher goes, I've known him for a long time, and I always thought, he's a good old boy. I mean, I've known him for a long time, but till I've actually got to work with him, I've seen a different person. A person that seems to distort the truth a little bit, and a person that's that not necessarily what I'd call a leader. In a position like mayor, you got to have somebody that's going to be a leader.
Well, I think we've seen enough of these city council meetings the last couple of years where it turned into, some sort of talk show like Jerry Springer, the late Jerry Springer, and we don't need that in the community. It's embarrassing.
It is.
To let Mr. Stanford and Ms. Payne just basically for the last 2 years bring their drama and trauma to every other week to the city of Burleson, and the mayor is sitting passively behind his desk, saying, well, I'm giving them a free rein to talk. Well, sometimes you need to say, shut the hell up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Ronnie would have shut that down right away. Or,
I'd certainly try.
Yeah.
And I think there's ways that we could have done that, and we didn't.
Well, I've seen private citizens criticized in city council meetings. It's one thing to criticize y'all because y'all know, that's part of the drill. Whether it's fair or not isn't really the question, but private citizens should not be subjected to that.
Nope,
I agree.
Never, should never.
And I don't consider myself anymore a private citizen because I do this and I ask for it, and so if some Yahoo on Facebook wants to call me everything but a child of God, well, I asked for it.
Well, there's another thing involved too, and I think Ricky will agree with me. I need to run the meetings if I'm elected.
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher has failed to run a meeting 1 in 2.5 years, and I think that's extremely important as a leader. I don't know how you could be a leader if you're not running the meeting. If you're sitting back and letting the city secretary run the meeting, then you're not leading. She is.
Right.
And I've had a problem with that from day one.
Yeah, me too. Same thing. I mean, we had a strong mayor before that. Not everybody agreed with him either, but he did project a good image for the city. He did do the things that he needed to do as a mayor, and you felt like you really did have a leader, and I haven't felt that since he's been gone.
Well, I felt like that there were people behind the scenes that were directing the traffic more than anything else.
Yes.
And as far as Ken is concerned, I don't think Ken was, pushed one way or the other. Now, of course, not every decision he made, everybody agreed with, but I don't, in this situation we have now, I just feel like there are people behind the scenes that are manipulating the situation.
Definitely.
for their own benefit. But I have no proof, and I'm not going to imply any financial shenanigans. I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just saying for what they just want to be next to the seat of power.
Yes.
And that kind of thing. But I'm so before, Yahoo Boy gets on Facebook says I'm accusing people of crimes. I am not. I don't have any proof of that. But I'm just saying the way it was run made me feel like I didn't really know who was in charge.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Rick had some things we talked about before, and again, I'm not going to get in the mud with anybody, but there's some things that are. I will tell you this about me. If you come up to me and say, "Hey, here, I'd like to help you on your campaign. Here's $100." They know right then that I make no promises, and none will be made. But they do trust me to go ahead and try to make the right decision. And I think we've not had we've had some really nice contributions. We've had Mr. Fletcher's had real nice contributions, and I simply would be nervous about that. Were it me, that's just me. I would be very nervous about a extremely large contribution myself. I'd much rather have the small ones from the people out there that are trying to tell you something. Just do it your way. And
well, if you could be bought for $100, you're a pretty cheap date.
I am a cheap date. I always have been.
So I mean I don't know if $100 is going to change your mind about anything.
No,
so,
not really.
do you feel like even though you're, well known and you've been in position for a long time, do you feel like you're fighting uphill or like an underdog in this race?
It's probably. I'll tell you what I feel. It's the first time I felt like that I had to fight people that did not tell the truth about me, and it was every day, it seemed like, and it got to a point to where I'm not going to respond to that.
You mean you're really not a Democrat?
Yeah, that's a good one right there. Democrat and not conservative. I think Ricky will tell you I'm probably one of the most conservative guys he's ever been around. So,
I think the word you used, Mr. Green, was he's a cheapskate. Is it?
I think that's been used many times.
I always told him he's got a lock and key on his wallet. So
Yeah. Yeah, I have noticed that too. I mean, and what has been the common denominator in our last 3 elections? Because I didn't pay a lot of attention to all these elections, and I only remember somebody asked me this: have you ever seen this before? And the only time I ever remember, you may remember this, mid-'90s, there were some couple school board races that got kind of tough, particularly over. I don't even know what's going on.
Yes,
at the time, doesn't matter. But it's been a long time, certainly. But I don't remember the city elections being like this.
No,
What's been the common denominator since 2020, 2021, and now?
yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of that when we ran last time. We got some of the same things going on, and we decided at that time, hey, we're just going to be ourselves. People know us. We've been around here for a long time. We're not going to fall into that trap of trying to defend. Yes.
Yeah, Ricky's right. We decided at the on go that we weren't going to respond to it. We didn't have to defend ourselves, and some of the stuff got pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And
How is your family holding up on this? Because I know it's tough on them.
Probably not nearly as well as I am, just to be honest with you. I will say one thing about this. They've not talked about my 2 daughters. And to that, I'm very, very appreciative. And I really have not said anything about Peggy. Peggy will come after you.
Yeah. Well, elections are kind of like the old mafia code. Leave the women and children out of it,
That's right.
And, but they see what's happening to their husband or father, and I'm sure there's some emotion there. And I bet Shelley, I'm sure, has seen sometimes. Did she talk you out of running again?
Oh, she tried to. Many times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she was definitely. I mean, there's, you talk somebody can, I mean, a reputation is something that you put together over many, many years.
Oh,
And somebody, just one thing can ruin that reputation for the rest of your life. So, she kind of worries about that sometimes. But again, if you do the right thing and you try to do the right thing, I think that's going to take care of itself, because those people's lives will come out eventually.
Well, I think so.
I think so too. But, in the meantime, there's a lot of collateral damage, I'm afraid.
Right.
You had some more things you wanted to say? You had a long list, or you say pretty much what you did?
I was just going to talk a little bit too about one of the things that we always talked about was balance of power.
Yes, Ricky. I think you should say this.
I mean, the biggest thing you get when you have a very experienced staff and you have new council members along with council members that have been there for a long time is you do kind of have a balance of power. Whereas when you have a group that hasn't been in there long enough to really know what's going on and that sort of thing, it's kind of like the staff, has free reign at that point to say, hey, let's go this route, let's go this route. And it seems like over the last 3 years especially that Fletcher has always kind of been behind the city manager on whatever he wanted to do, not being a leader again. So I think that balance of power is so important with any type of board like that or council.
The way it's set up, one vote equals another, right?
Yes.
And I guess I just want to kind of reiterate what you're saying. You didn't feel like that y'all had the kind of collaboration y'all had before?
I don't think we did. No, I think we, and that came down to the leadership again. I mean, we had a really strong leader, and I think with the experience that we had on both as a council and mayor, we saw a lot of good things to where the staff kind of, which they're supposed to do, sit back and do what the council wants to do rather than what they want to do. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, I've heard that before. And he was on the show, as you probably know, last Thursday. And he never once said, I did this, I've done that. It was all we, all the way home, so to speak. No, it was like he was, he said, we did this, we did that. And that's another aspect of this election I've been really disenchanted with, because yesterday I got a flyer and in all the accomplishments supposedly that Mr. Fletcher had done. And like, I know for a cotton picking fact now, thanks to Sarah Carlson particularly, that this was in the works long before you ever made the scene. And that you taking credit for group efforts like this it may be political, but that's why they call them politicians. And one time I was joking with him and he said, I called him a politician. And he was very offended by that, but that's exactly what a politician does. And, but the point is that the flyers and all this other stuff make it sound like you guys are basically just trailing along in his wake. Right. And that's not how it works.
Yeah, that was a real slap in the face when he puts all his accomplishments on there, on there. And these are things we've been working on for years.
Right, like the golf course. That's really come up a bunch because, of course, when I was interviewing, I didn't know the background of this story, but it was made clear to me that this was something that's been discussed for a decade, and you already had a master plan for it.
Right.
And same thing with the master plan for the community and all this other business. And so, let Joe Biden be the politician, all right? And, we don't need that in Burleson. We need somebody just to shoot straight with us and to approach things with some humility.
Yes.
Because the school board, okay, they have worked well together the last few years, last couple of decades.
I agree.
And I've talked to several of them many times, and I never heard them take credit without giving ample credit to the staff, to Dr. Jemison, to their fellow board members. I never hear, some of the board candidates or some of the current occupants, the incumbents say, I did this, I did that. And I thought, I know for a fact the way we're set up, no one person can do that.
No.
It's impossible.
And it bothered me.
It does me too.
Yeah.
We used to call, when I was on the school board, we called it, same deal right now, we called it the team of 8. That included the superintendent and the school board. Well, we're the same way. We're exactly the same way as a city council. We're a team of 8. Not one person. I don't care what anybody says. There is not one person that can make all these accomplishments. That is exactly impossible.
Yes.
And it's meant to be
It takes
impossible.
4 votes to do anything. We have to do it. All of us have to be there on board.
How do you feel though if you're one of the 3? All right. In other words, it's a 4-3 vote, and you're one of the 3. Are you going? You're not going to raise a bunch of hell about that. You're just going to.
I've been on that side many times.
Yes.
Oh, I've seen some 6-1 votes on the school board. I remember those.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, but see, in this position though, you're the mayor, and if you're on the losing side of the vote, you're on the losing side, right?
Right.
You're on the losing side. There's a deal here that you ought to remember. If you are on the losing side, you step right up and say, okay, guys, this is our men and women. This is what you want to do. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to be on board with you. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to do that for 30 years. No problem. Because I've been on that side, Brad.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know that.
Oh, absolutely.
And you go right on about your business and you say, hey, I'm in there. I'm in there with you.
I remember on the school board in particular, you were in the minority sometimes.
Yep.
But I never heard you bellyache about it later. And see, here's what I envision: if you, hopefully, God willing, you win on Saturday, that if you're on the losing side of a vote, and say that vote goes sideways, or that project goes not like as planned, it's not as good a vote as it should have been, blah blah blah. I don't see you disowning it.
No.
I don't see you saying, "Well, that's what 4 people said." They didn't listen to me.
No,
I don't see that.
Well, you don't understand your job if you do that.
Yeah.
That's not your job to be a personal person on this project or that project. That is the reason we always call it the team of 8. We are a team no matter what you say.
Well, speaking of 8,
It's not just one ego.
well,
That's right.
Last week it was Mr. Fletcher implied very strongly that the city manager job has been taken care of.
Yes.
Is that the case?
No, it really wasn't. I mean, we had heard that before we had our executive meeting, and nothing had been decided at that point. And it's, we did offer him the interim.
Tommy, right?
Yes, Tommy, the interim, but he still has to prove himself to the new council, and then they still have the right to go out and hire one of the agencies to find another person if they need to.
So he's not the replacement; he's the interim.
Yes,
He is the interim
Okay.
until we replace.
And that's not going to be done next week, is it?
no,
What is not.
It's like looking for a superintendent. It takes months.
It does. It certainly does. That said, it was a good choice to make Tommy the interim.
Yes.
Because it is a very long process. It's not tomorrow, the next day, or next month, or the following couple of months. You're probably looking, Brad, you're probably right. You're probably looking at 6 months.
You mentioned last time about bringing in a professional headhunter, so to speak, like they did for Dr. Jimerson and other superintendents. As notoriously frugal as you are, is that an expense we need to undertake?
It's a necessary expense. Those folks, that's what they do for a living and nothing else. And they go out throughout the state of Texas and actually outside all over the United States and find what they feel like is a good pick for you. Good thing about your deal is you can say we don't like it.
Right.
Go back and do it again, and it doesn't cost you any more to do that. They make that arrangement.
And they usually bring you the best of the best that are out there. That's what they're trying to do. And it's normally about $25,000 to go out and find somebody to look for that person that's needed. So it does cost a little bit, but I think it's like Ronnie said, it's well worth it. Even if they have to go through that process again and they end up hiring Tommy as the city manager, I think it's a good thing.
Well, it's that's the way it works in the schools as well. We have a principal opening. We have some very, very qualified vice principals, but they'll still look outside.
Sure.
And all that. There's Bill. I knew he'd be showing up sooner or later. Okay. Anyway, Chris is not Chris. Sorry, he's reading stuff. Bill has some comments about Mr. Fletcher. Y'all can read for yourself later. But anyway, the point is that that you have the experience in doing this.
Yes, fits on both sides, school and
you
council.
hired superintendents.
Yes.
You know, if you're on the school board, what 2000? When did you get on the school board? 95.
90.
90. Okay, so you hired.
We hired
several of them. I know
Yeah,
you.
we did. We had
Turner and the one I never talk
Turner
about.
one, yeah.
And Mr. Krimmel and Jimerson and I came in with Gordon Cockrum, and I remember when they're having a new teachers luncheon, I sat next to him and said, "How many is this common in a school district where you sit next to the superintendent?" I thought he was a pretty good fellow myself. And
He was there when I first went on. He
yeah.
sure was.
But I'm glad that it's my hope, very much my hope, that you'll be part of that decision-making process, whoever it is, whether it's somebody within inner system or outside of it, because I trust your judgment. And, because we need somebody with an experience, and we need somebody that's not going to be listening to outside voices about who they should take. And that's what I'm afraid might happen, is that they'll have people saying, pushing Mr. Fletcher to make a decision that benefits, a relative. I don't know, hire my nephew kind of thing. I don't know. But and I think Mr. Johnson here will say, well, I'm sure your nephew's a fine young man. He can apply like everybody else. That kind of thing,
Well, when you've been down the road a while and you've gone through it, Rick's gone through it several times too, you don't become accustomed to it, but you learn each time. And that's what's important, because when you go if I go into it now, I kind of know what I'm looking for. And I would hope that the rest of them did too. So you have these characteristics, and if we can find the majority of those characteristics in this person, then we found the right guy.
Right.
Or lady. Or lady.
Oh, well, there's going to be a lot of people that will apply for this job because we're a growing community. You pay well, and there's a lot of benefits by living and working in this area. So I have a feeling you'll get ample choices to choose from.
I think we will.
And I like the fact that you really, by sending it out kind of to somebody else, this professional firm, you're going to remove the possibilities of outside influences on the decision-making process.
You do.
Yeah, and so that's a good thing.
do.
So if people want to bellyache about $25,000, well, get over themselves. You got anything else on your list, sir?
I don't think that's about it. Let's see what else I'll put on here.
Folks, as Milton Berle said many, many years ago, go ahead and talk while Ricky's reading his sheet.
Yeah. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yes.
See, again, Milton Berle, I don't know how many of my audience know who that is, but that's it. I remember when I was a little kid.
He was great.
Sometimes I have people say, "Who are you talking about?" I mentioned Red Skelton one time, and they're like, "Who is Red Skeleton?"
Oh.
So no. That's
One of the greatest.
Yeah. But, as you look back on your tenure, are you going to have are you kind of melancholy about it? Or are you like, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last?
I tell you, I'll probably miss it. I mean, I really will. I've been there long enough now that I really enjoy, doing the work as a councilman. And it's been, like I say, it's been very humbling for me and my family, and I've just really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I probably will miss it for sure.
Well, then why aren't you running again?
Well, I'll tell you the part that I don't like. I don't like all the drama. I mean, I'm not a drama person at all.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's been a big turnoff for me. And I know that's what you sign up for, but some of the things like that we've been through the last 3 years or 4 years, I don't think we signed up for that.
Nobody signs up for that.
Yeah. No, you don't. You think you're doing something, worthwhile, serving the community in a $5 every 2 weeks job, and I'm sure people are quick with the criticism, but not quite as quick with the compliments. And
never forget. Got to tell you this one. Sitting there one day, school board, and I was school board president, and we had been raked over the coals about school uniforms and how sorry we were because we were going to go to that. And oh man, my head was down. Mr. Kerr got up there and he said, "Okay, folks, y'all are doing a good job." He said, "Just keep on doing what you're doing. I know you don't get any compliments, but I'm here to tell you you're doing a good job." And I tell you, I perked up. It just takes that every once in a while.
Right.
You seldom get that. You seldom get that, but when you do, you embrace it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, is there a possibility that maybe you can serve Burleson in maybe not in a council position, but maybe some volunteer position?
Sure, yeah.
Or some committee position, something like that. Maybe if Mr. Russell he's going to vacate P&Z, maybe you can go there. Who knows? With your knowledge of real estate, it'd be very helpful.
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, I love, of course, I've served on the P&Z before too, back before I became a councilman. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good boards and commissions that need good people, and we need them to keep applying like they have over the last few years. Now we're getting some, really good applicants for just about every board.
Good.
And so,
I'm glad to hear it, because there was a time that I know you were kind of having to shake the bushes for them.
Yes.
You couldn't find them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's another thing that's kind of a sad note on the politics. I have talked to several people that have had interest in either running or serving in some capacity, and they said, I don't want my name dragged through the Facebook mud. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, that's just terrible, because these guys and men and women that are telling me this are like high quality people.
Yep.
Sure.
And they would really benefit us a lot in whatever capacity they chose to do it. And they said, I don't want to get up there and have my name slandered, and whatever else. And so that's got to stop. And I don't remember that really happening before 3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't either.
I can honestly tell you, everybody that I ran against prior to 2020, I was able to shake their hands and say, hey, good luck to you. Wish you all the luck in the world. They did the same with me. Well, we went right on. Mm-hmm. And that has not been the situation since the election in 2020. It's been pretty brutal. And I understand people saying, I'm not dragging my family through that. Mm-hmm. I think I could do it, but I'm not taking my family through it. I don't blame them. You shouldn't have to.
Well, that's an unfortunate thing, because, it is pretty much a volunteer job. And if people think it's just, they spend about 2 or 3 hours every other Monday night, they're kidding themselves. I mean, how many hours you'll spend a week in just background material and reading and meetings outside that time, or workshops, and you
want to look at properties. I mean, just everything. Yeah,
that's
there's
right.
a lot to it.
There's a lot more meetings than the 2 meetings.
There are.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of and all this other stuff. And
we're about to go into budget season now, too.
Oh, that's always fun. Everybody.
No, that's not.
I can imagine. That would be a real problem, because everybody needs more money, I'm sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, I guess that we talked more about just the general atmosphere of the election, but there's a couple of things that people have probably been asking you, and a lot of it's probably about taxes and budgeting and whatever else. And we're going to go through problems, I guess. Growing pains is the better word, with that, because you don't want to raise taxes, but you're going to have a lot of stress on the budget because of infrastructure and whatever else. And so,
well, I think, and boy, Rick, you can jump in anytime here and help me. I think there's a misunderstanding about it. We have held the city taxes down. Last 10 years, gone down 5 times.
You said we not you, by yourself, individually. We.
And the thing about it is, I think we've held our end up. Mm-hmm. Where the misunderstanding comes is a lot of times is when you have the valuation of your house go up like it has gone up the last several years. That is not a city deal. That the direction comes from the state of Texas down to the appraisers in the counties, and we can't help that.
Right.
We can't stop that or help it. And Rick, I know you know a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen. I've had a couple of properties that I've seen that they're trying to raise the value 67% on one of them. I mean, it's just crazy what those appraisals are coming back at.
Yeah, my appraisal got bumped up, but I would. Y'all weren't the people I yell at, because I know it's Scott Porter, doggone him, and and that crew. So it's that's their fault. Kind of going back to the race issues, the school board races, I think, remind me of the way Burleson races used to be run. Much more amicable, a lot less tension. And you look at Place 3, and Ryan Richardson and Rob Duke are running, and they were both very respectful to each other, either when they were in the same room together, also on this air. And that's the way races should be run. And you look at Place 4. I mean, Dallas and Shandy and Caleb Mitchell. I saw them together last week at that State of the Education Summit, and they were all getting along just great. And a little goodbye hug kind of thing. That's what we expect from municipal and city school elections.
What we used to do.
Yeah, that's what we expect. I mean, we don't have to agree on the issues, but we expect that kind of behavior, and we haven't seen that in the last 3 elections.
No, we've not.
Leave all that crap, for the national stuff for Biden and Trump and blah blah blah. We don't want that here.
No, it's really a shame what has happened in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and so let's hopefully this just be a turning point Saturday. I think
Sure hope so.
Well, I think more people than y'all might realize are also had it up to the gills with all this junk, because they don't want this anymore. They don't want the drama and the trauma and the accusations or whatever else that we've seen the last 2.5 years in these city council meetings. We don't want to hear all this rubbish anymore. We don't want the Facebook goon squad, as I call them, to constantly be interjecting themselves and trying to disrupt what's trying to be a civil conversation about things.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I really do.
I do too.
I hope if we don't do anything, if I get through this thing and I win, I think we sent a message to everybody that that's not what we want.
Right. And so
I think you're exactly right.
So my 2 cents is this is not just who's going to be sitting in front with running the meetings. It's also really, I think, a statement about what we want as a community. And do we want another year or 2 of this? Do we want to have to deal with whatever crap comes down or whatnot? This is this is an important election. They all are important. Okay, I'm a government teacher. I'm supposed to say that, but this is really important because if Mr. Fletcher and his crew prevail, then this is going to be the template by which other races will be run. And we don't want that anymore.
That's what I'm afraid of. It won't stop.
No, and it'll just encourage others like that. And so, anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
That was one of the big reasons a lot of us have asked Ronnie to run, because we want to change that situation if we can, and we know that Ronnie is the person he is. I mean, he would be a great face for the city of Burleson, and he'd do a great job.
But I appreciate that.
Well, and I agree. Now, I always let the guests have the last word. Which one? Let's let him go last. He's trying to get votes. But anyway, Mr. Green, tell us, what you'd like to tell the people of Burleson, those that listen and share the show with others.
Well, I guess the main thing is let's get out and vote. You've got till 7 o'clock today, and then that's the end of early voting. And then you have all from 7 to 7 on Saturday. So it's so important. Most of the things that affect us in life are right here locally.
Exactly.
They're not nationally. So, if people just make yourself get out and vote, I think that's so important. And Ronnie's a great guy. I've known him for a long time, and I think he'll be a great choice as our next mayor.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that.
And your turn, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I told you we've had a lot of good things, and I mentioned some of them last time. The thing, one of the things I'm really looking for is the build out on the building facing the plaza. I think that's going to be fantastic. We're going to have some outdoor stuff where you can, and actually you can have your meals outside if you want to, and sit over and look at maybe some the summer sounds. I'm really looking forward to that. We have a new steakhouse coming to town too.
Is that the one that has a railroad theme to it?
Yes.
Okay.
They have actually gone out and got I think it's a caboose off of a train. I think that's going to be very, very nice.
I thought that restaurant was going to be more like, not kid-oriented, but family-oriented, kind of like a Chili's kind of thing, but it's going to be a steakhouse.
I think it's going to be very upscale.
Well, good. We need that.
Yeah.
Good.
So another thing that I'm looking forward to, and as I said, everybody I think is looking forward to Alley Cats. And I told you last time, I think they've settled some of the problems they had, and I think they're now they're going to get to start to build. And I also mentioned that's going to be their headquarters for all. That's a wonderful deal.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be it's something that, Burleson's been needing for a long time, because when I moved here, I think he had a bowling alley, and that's about it. And that's long gone.
That's a long time ago.
There's it long. Well, I guess I break my own rule and have the last word. I want to tell the audience, not just to share the show just because, my sponsors need it, because they don't. They're doing great. I like to think because of the show, but that's just my ego. but it really, really is important what kind of message we send to the community, not just to Burleson, but to the larger DFW community. What kind of town we want to be, and if we want to be a town that's run by, basically a small group of people that use gossip, innuendo, slander, trash talk, whisper campaigns, or we're going to run a transparent and open campaign and have an open and transparent administration. Saturday's your last chance to make that happen, guys. And so I'll probably bring this up again. I have Shandy on Thursday, and I'll probably bring more of that up as well. But there you go. Oh, by the way, and before you get out of here, next Monday, so I have a guest that you might really like. He plays with Asleep at the Wheel. You like Bob Wills and all that?
You're darn right.
Yeah. His name is Joey McKenzie. That's it. In front of my head. And I don't know if it's Joey or Jimmy. I'm sorry. I've never met him. He just auto set him up with me. I got to get back on that. But we talked on the phone about it last week, and he was, he plays for like Bob Wills' tribute band, and also, like I mentioned, Sleep at the Wheel, Lyle Lovett, and these other people. So you might like that kind of stuff.
I will love it. I actually got to see Bob Wills, and I seen him Sleep at the Wheel. What a great bunch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Green. Not just for being here, but being here for 17 years.
Well, thank you. I love coming on the show. You've got a great show. And
I appreciate that.
You're a good person. I love being here.
Okay. You have to leave time for rebuttal on that. But it's like my great aunt when she passed away after the eulogy. We had 20 minutes for rebuttal because she was kind of a mean one. But good luck to you. God bless you both. And
Thank you very much.
And now it's up to you, Burleson. We're taking it as far as we can. We'll see you all Thursday.